Sam Raimi's Spider-Man released in 2002 to critical acclaim and the love of millions. This made it one of the few actually watchable Marvel movies up to that point. Seriously, before Blade, Marvel movies stunk. Just awful. Sam Raimi is a director with a long career before Spider-Man hit big. But the story of how Sam Raimi's Spider-Man came to be is a little bit strange, and in fact, had a little bit of a helping hand from a surprising source. Hamburger Helper. If you're unfamiliar, Hamburger Helper is a food product created by Betty Crocker in 1971 to address the rising costs of meat due to shortages. This package was filled with noodles and seasoning to help families stretch out the bit of meat they could afford. Eventually, Hamburger Helper would gain a mascot in the form of the Helping Hand, or Lefty, a goofy glove boy always ready to help a poor, lonely housewife with the cooking. And this glove boy would be the catalyst that would lead one aspiring filmmaker and his friend down a dark path. In 1978, our boy Sam Raimi directed a short horror called Within the Woods. This was essentially a proof of concept for what would become the iconic movie The Evil Dead. The film starred Ellen Sandweiss alongside Raimi's longtime friend Bruce Campbell, famously known for portraying Ash Williams, the central character of the Evil Dead franchise. The screenplay would be written by Scott Spiegel, who would also have a minor acting role. In the short, a possessed Campbell attacks Sandweiss, leading to her dismembering him limb by limb, and in one scene she takes his severed hand holding a knife and stabs him with it. Yuck. In 1979, we got a bit of a reversal on that scenario. Scott Spiegel was now directing and writing the screenplay of Attack of the Helping Hand, a short horror parody featuring the Hamburger Helper mascot as a sadistic killer. Bruce Campbell starred as the voice of the malicious mascot, with his victim played by Linda Quinones, and a bit role from Raimi. Notice a theme of hands developing? In 1981, Within the Woods leveraged enough backing and funding for Raimi to create The Evil Dead, a classic horror movie about teenagers in a cabin in the woods besieged and possessed by demonic forces. This film reunited Raimi, Campbell, and Sandweiss and was successful enough to become a cult classic, and not long after came The Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 starts off as an abridged retelling of the first movie, with more chaos added to the latter half and Campbell receiving more screen time. One of the film's most famous scenes has Campbell's hand chopped off, and that hand reanimating to attack its former host. Not dissimilar to Lefty in Attack of the Helping Hand. Evil Dead 2 was astonishingly successful, leading to sequels, comics, TV shows, and even games. Did you know Ash Williams appeared in the Valve game Poker Night at the Inventory 2? It taught me how to play poker in Texas Hold'em, so it always has a soft spot in my heart.
What Mr. Williams is trying to say is that due to an ancient and unspeakable curse, he is unable to relate the horrifying circumstances that led to the removal of his hand without risking his immortal soul and or this entire plane of existence. My translation software is a little fuzzy on this point.
What he said.
For many years, many studios attempted to adapt Spider-Man to the silver screen with prolific directors like James Cameron, David Fincher, and Tim Burton. Ultimately, the rights fell into Sony's hands, and while not the studio's first choice, that's their words, not mine, Raimi's passion for the Spider-Man comics and previous successes landed him the director's seat. And in keeping with tradition, there's an iconic scene heavily featuring Peter Parker's hands as he tries to shot web. It's a really interesting domino effect on how a meal kit and Raimi's continued interest in weird hands led him to directing one of the most successful superhero films of all time. It's also worth noting, Raimi directed Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which features Stephen Strange, who had his hands mutilated and now makes magical hand signs. This guy is a pure hand freak, a real fetishist, like an inverted Quentin Tarantino. When is he gonna make a Naruto movie? Thanks for sticking around on this interesting tale of causality and hand obsession. If you liked this video, check out my other Spider-Man centered stuff, such as Peter Parker's toxic relationship with Venom and the symbiote, and a discussion of what an omniverse is, centered around Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse. Spooky season is coming up, so you might want to get into the mood by popping in some of Raimi's classic horrors, and stay tuned to this channel for some great horror-themed comic videos coming up. See you next time.